Like Frank Sinatra.
Both Erica and Kara are also here, and so I may need one of you guys to work that computer, or Vanessa, and Vanessa's my wife. So the girls run the clinic, my wife runs our
Your
house
life,
and me
your
and
life.
everything else, and yeah, the whole life. And so I wanted to share with you guys some of the interesting things on this. Some of you guys have already come to the clinic, so you know about this. Some of you don't, so I'm gonna explain it like you haven't heard it before. So Ricky, thank you for sharing about the patches and kind of giving a history on that. I'm a big like data nut. And so I want to just see, a lot of times I'll hear things like, this is a really good product. I told my wife when I first heard about this, I know Ricky does a lot of due diligence and looking at stuff and really looking into stuff and seeing, is this, you know, all the facts behind it and all the data behind it, but I thought it was science fiction. I thought, no, that doesn't sound right. So even before I looked at the data, I was able to talk to a practitioner. I was able to kind of listen to two surgeons. One's a colorectal surgeon. Her name's Dr. Anna Toker. She's and I thought, well, she's doing this in her clinic, but she's actually like a highly renowned over the United States colorectal surgeon and also works at Baylor and Methodist. And on her site, she had these patches, which that gives a lot of validity to us in the medical community that there's a surgeon who's like renowned across the United States as one of the better or best, and she's using these patches post-surgical. There's an orthopedic surgeon I got to kind of hear from, and then so they have a science advisory board that, like Ricky said, this company's been in business for 15 years, and then even on top of that they had data. So I looked through about 16 studies, and I think they have about 6 more coming up with different sports teams and different colleges and universities. So I'm just going to go through a few of the things that I'm going to pick apart. But they have multiple studies in regard to athletics done by California University Institute. One for pain, and I have something to say. There's a fellow medical person that came into our clinic almost before we closed today, and he said, don't say my name, but you can tell my story. So I'll tell the story after I talk about the pain patch. So I'm not going to go through the whole study. I'm just going to kind of pick out some pieces and parts. But if you're ever interested, the study is readily available. So if you scroll down right here. So in this study, they really took, and what's really good about these studies, anytime we see a study, what we should want is, we don't want the milk industry doing a study for the meat industry. We don't want someone who may have a bias. And so these are third-party studies. So Superpatch and Jay put their studies under. This is a double-blind placebo, which means everybody in the study doesn't know if they're getting a real patch or if they're getting a fake patch. And then it's done by people who have no vested interest. This is the thing that stuck out to me. So in each of these studies, they take a baseline, they take 7 days after, and they take 14 days after. And as you can see, over 14 days, they said the severity score decreased by 47% in the people that actually wore the real patches, and then 6% in people who were wearing something fake. So we call that a statistical. Some people would say with this, it's a statistical anomaly because there's no medicine. We just call it a significant difference. There's actually a drastic difference. And it's easy to see 6% to 40, almost 50%. That's a massive difference. So their whole inference score decreased pain by 50% in a population, or decreased 6% in the people who were just wearing. And if I had to choose, of course, I'm going to want to decrease pain by 47, 50%. If you scroll down, a lot of times you can say, well, what was their, which was my thought, what was their point of pain? And it keeps going down. And this is, just so you guys know, all these studies are 2024, so these are this year. and this is the Anesthesia and Pain. This is the Journal for Anesthesia and Pain. So a lot of anesthesiologists and pain management specialists. Let's scroll down a little bit more. Whoa, sorry, scoot up just a little bit more. Perfect. So the neat thing about this was they took actually pain scores like 10 and 8, and sometimes you can say, well, what is pain? You know, is it, people could say I'm a 10 out of 10, but they're running around. And so it's like, are they a 10 out of 10? So they really said what we're gonna do is say pain that is debilitating versus pain that is actually I can manage with this. And so they said 10 or 8 out of 10 versus like a 2 out of 10. And so their study said 7 to 14 days. Treatments included when they took the baseline, when they took the patches at baseline, there was 51% of the patients, so out of 168 patients, 85 of the patients were taking over-the-counter products for pain. 46 were taking anti-inflammatories like ibuprofen. 16% of this group was taking muscle relaxers, and 2% were on opioids. So then when we go back up to that, and they say, hey, what we're going to do is we're going to take these away and just give you a patch. And you think about that. 50%, like 47% of that group, and scroll back up, I think it was in 14 days, like the pain went from a 10 or an 8 to a 2. That's
I think 14 day was actually 82%.
It went
Oh,
up
was
to
it?
14 days.
Yeah.
Right there. Up.
Yeah, sorry. That was actually 82. So yeah, at the baseline, when we did the baseline, 42%. So after 14 days of treatment group, 82% of patients reported less or a lot less, which we again said that was more of like it was a debilitating or I can manage with this kind of pain. So yeah, thank you guys for saying that. 82%, and so then it kind of went even further, and it said 90% of the patients in the control group, which is people with the patch, reported no change in medication usage over 14 days, which means I'm not having to use that medicine. That's great. So that was the pain patch. So that's pretty incredible. Incredible to us in the medical field is this is in the Anesthesia and Pain Journal, because a lot of times it's medicine, and so what I think. If I'm going to be honest, I think we're all medical providers. We're starting to see, a lot of times we've never had to deal with. We're trying to get a prescription and we can't get it, and maybe you all have come up against that. We have, and the question is, well, what do we do? That's the go-to. Or the patient's been on that for 5 or 10 years, and they're like, well, it's on back order. Okay, so what do we do? So this is a great alternative. When you scroll up a little bit more, and not just this patch, this is just the pain patch I was talking about, but if you go to, so for Super Patch, it was actually, they were invited to present at the 2023, last year, 12th World Congress of the World Institute of Pain in October 2023, which is pretty incredible. So a lot of these, it doesn't say invite, but you don't get to just go to these. These are like the new and innovative things that are going to help with pain. So they were invited to go. And they did a study even in 2022 to preface that 2024 study that really was a good effort to kind of show what the patches could do. It might have been 2023. Actually, it was 2023 before the conference. And you can scroll past that. That just kind of talks about vibro-tactile technology. This patch is actually a patch where we talk about sleep. So another 2024 study that took a baseline, 7 days, 14 days. And before I jump into that, I told you I'd tell you the story about the guy who came, and I won't use his name. So the guy came in today. Last patient of the day came in, not scheduled. Something happened to where I think what's going on is something's really pinching on the nerve in the back of the neck, and I think he's got some pinched nerves in the back. To the point, he said, I'll do anything. And he could turn his neck. We did some range of motion. He could turn his neck about 5 degrees. He said, I feel it hurts. And he could feel pain and numbness and tingling down the arm. That was today. So I said, well, there's things we can do in the clinic, but I actually like to see what's going on. I said, so let's just use the pain patch. And he's a conventional guy, I know. He said, well, I'm not really for the voodoo. I said, I get it. But you know what? You're hurting, and I don't know what's going on. I have some guesses. You're not going to get hurt by this. Let's use it. So there are 3 points we put on him. Put the patch on Aries, one on his neck, one mid back, and then he had some pain. He has numbness in two fingers and pain and tingling down the whole arm. And so we put one on his arm. I think it was, how much time? I would say, I'll even say maybe 5 minutes. I'll give it that. It felt shorter than 5 minutes. So he could barely, he was like this, he's like, I can't. And he'd say, I can't sleep and I can't. It was in 5 minutes, he said, this is crazy. And I kept just seeing him like move his arm and he's like, and he got up and he's walking around and he goes, okay, I can't. And it's like he almost can't, I could see he can't wrap his mind around it. That was cool, because you know, we're still kind of working through these. I know what the surgeons are saying, but it's really neat to see this kind of stuff happening. So of course, my thing is, we still need to get the MRI to see what's going on. Something's going on, but it's really nice that I can say, you're gonna have to sit under an MRI for about an hour while they do 30 minutes on the neck, 30 minutes on the back. That's gonna hurt, so it's nice to say, yeah, this is actually gonna be tolerable with patches that have no medicine or side effects. So the sleep patch, they did one with an REM sleep patch, and so a lot of times they'll do different studies with different, they call them scoring. And so this is Pittsburgh Sleep Quality Index. It's a type of scoring they do. So on this index, the question they asked patients was, how often have you had trouble sleeping because you wake up in the middle of the night or early morning? And they did a little bit of a rule out for, I drink a lot of water and I get up in the middle of the night. This is just, I wake up, I get to sleep, but I wake up and I can't get back to sleep. At baseline, so this is day one. At baseline, the treatment group was over 83% of the study participants indicated that they had trouble sleeping at least once or twice, or 3 or more times during the week. After 7 days, just 7 days, incorporating, so we start out at 83%. Incorporating 7 days sleep patch, only 31% of the subjects reported trouble sleeping. So we just dropped it 50%. You know, that is just, I mean, those stats are just incredible. And then you go into 14 days and it's 22%. So it looks like if you follow the statistics on that, everything looks like it's getting better and better. And it's not just getting better. A lot of studies we read, we're excited. I will tell you, I've read multiple medical journals and we get really excited when there's, I mean, a significant difference can be like 12%. When you go from an 83 to a 31, that's a game changer. So I just want to share that with you guys. And then what's really neat with this one is, by the way, completely different journal, Internal Family Medicine Healthcare Journal, completely different, third party, still people that have no vested interest. And so they are invited, actually this year, Harmony Study sleep data to be presented at the 27th Congress of the European Sleep Research Society. And if you speak that, I think that's it for that one. But that's this year, so that's another invitation for Superpatch to come to in Europe. The irony of this as I'm watching this is, and I'm reading these, I said, it's funny that all these invitations are coming from Europe. I'm like, come on, United States. We gotta move forward. The last one we have, this patch is and they did studies, they just said baseline F1 is a 7-week and F2 is like the 14-week. But if you scroll down, so this patch is really for Peace Patch because we get a lot of, we get multiple, there's tons of issues we all have. I mean, whether it's anxiety, depression, sleep, focus, pain, I mean, and so, you know, you kind of look at the past slide where it says 2 billion people have this, 6 billion people have this, but the big thing is if one person has that, why we need to help. How can we help? So, when you scroll down a little bit more on this one again did a baseline, right here. What was neat on this one was, or what was interesting, we're talking about anxiety, depression, at day 14. So it does the same thing, but I don't want to keep going. Baseline, 7 day, I'll just show you guys. At day 14, over 90% of the patients in the treatment group indicated they were satisfied with the patch. And approximately 90% of the subjects indicated they would recommend it to their friends and family. Now that's kind of subjective because it's like, okay, I'm looking for that data and I kind of say, okay, so 90% said they were satisfied. I can tell you from experience with patients in our clinic where we've tried this, my biggest proof, I like to put these patches to the test. So I always say I I like to have people, I don't like for people to be claustrophobic, but for the patients who are claustrophobic, there's no way you're going to get them in an MRI machine where it's like this, or a CT machine. So I said, because usually it takes one Xanax, or I don't know what it's going to take sometimes. But I said, let's do the patch. Let's see if this patch really is going to work for this. And interestingly enough, one patch, the patient was really uneasy about that when I first told them, let's try the patch. And I said, hey, if this doesn't work, I'm canceling. That's fine, because we'll just reschedule it for the non-emergent things. Put the patch on them, and there's 3 I can think of offhand that went into the machine, did fine. And that, I can tell you, that's not gonna happen. I mean, if it's not working, they're not gonna sit under that. So that kind of proved it for me, even though that was like that's a great statistic. So 90% were satisfied. So were the patients that got onto the MRI machine that were claustrophobic. And I didn't have to send a prescription. And if you scroll up, what's great about the Peace Patch is just another patch. So they're doing all these invitations. So the Peace Patch, because it's the Peace Patch is a lot of times, we want to say, because any product you use that's not medicine is going to be FDA registered, not FDA approved. And so when we talk about the Peace Patch, we're always careful, but really we're talking about anxiety. I mean, that's what it is. So we're there to help. It's there to help and support. The irony is it's there to help and support at 90%. But I'm not going to say any more about that. I'm just going to say it's there to help and support. And then there's another patch that's Focus, that's been very helpful for symptoms of inattention, or if you want to say ADD. There's a patch of Joy that's been very good to help support all these patches to support overall health and brain health. But for some of our patients who may suffer with just feelings of feeling down or depressed feelings, a good support. 24th World Congress, anyhow, of Psychiatry, which should tell you something, because they're dealing with all these issues. So they got invited again this November. So it'll be November 14th through the 17th of this year to Mexico City to again present. So with that said, that's just a few of the studies, and this is just all the, someone who posted, hey, they're going to the conference, they're going to this conference, invited to this conference. And again, it's just proof that, I mean, you don't get the invitation for not proving that you may have something here. And what's really good again is I can just say from seeing it in our clinic, and I know Karen and Erica could say the same thing, you start to see the validity behind the data, which is what that's what we're looking for.